Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got another excellent show for you today. Excellent, excellent indeed, because I am joined by Niall Stanage. Nice to see you, Niall.
Great to see you, Robby, and I always enjoy these little impersonations to get us kicked off. Lots to talk about, as always, in this excellent show. So tell us what's on your radar.
Well, let's get to it. O ye of little faith, President Donald Trump is pausing the tariffs pending favorable negotiations with countries the world over. Everybody except China, which still wants to play hardball with the great dealmaker himself. Well, this sounds good to me. It sounds good to the markets, which have reacted wildly positively to the news. Now, we'll discuss the details more specifically in our next segment, but first, I want to just focus on one of the individuals in Trump's orbit who I think just does not understand the plan and has unwisely clashed with Elon Musk and others. That figure, of course, is Peter Navarro. Goes by a different name, according to Elon Musk, but I won't share that here right now. Most of Trump's advisors, including Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and AG Secretary Brooke Rollins, have defended the tariffs as a tool to bring other countries to the negotiating table with the goal of having everyone, us and them, reduce our tariffs to zero so we can have reciprocal free trade. That's best for them. It's best for us. Everybody wins when government gets rid of barriers to trade because free market capitalism tends to improve the living standards, lower the cost of goods and services. If it was generally a good idea, on the other hand, to have the government micromanage all aspects of the economy, force industries to be concentrated domestically, dictate the prices and quantities of raw materials, etc., then I think North Korea would be a huge success story instead of a miserable, starving dystopia. And so this was always the plan. Threaten tariffs and make deals. Now, if you're someone who thought there was going to be a massive permanent tariff in place and they were going to endure for long enough, for years really, so that a large number of lost manufacturing jobs, or the factories themselves, would be rebuilt in America, I'm sorry to say you were never in on the plan, because that's not going to happen. Someone who definitely isn't in on the plan is Peter Navarro, an advisor to the president on trade. Navarro recently made very, very unwise decision to pick a fight with Elon Musk, saying the reason Elon Musk doesn't like the tariffs is because he's primarily a car manufacturer relying on parts from overseas. Here's a refresher.
When it comes to tariffs and trade, we all understand in the White House, and the American people understand, that Elon's a car manufacturer. But he's not a car manufacturer. He's a car assembler in many cases. If you go to his Texas plant, a good part of the engines that he gets, which in the EV case is the batteries, come from Japan and come from China. The electronics come from Taiwan. The tires come. What we want, and the difference is in our thinking and Elon's on this, is that we want the tires made in Akron. We want the transmissions made in Indianapolis.
Elon did not respond kindly to that misleading claim and in fact pointed out that his cars, the Tesla, are more American-made than virtually any other car on the market. In fact, he said Navarro is a moron, dumber than a sack of bricks, and even called him a word I'm not going to say on television, although you can see it right there. Here was conservative CNN commentator Scott Jennings and conservative economist Stephen Moore addressing this feud.
I didn't like that he was denigrating what is actually a really good American manufacturing success story.
Exactly.
The original insult was that Teslas are made of all these foreign components. In fact, Teslas are the most American-made car.
We have the chart,
Yeah.
I mean, to prove your point. I mean,
yes.
they rank basically at the top on all these different metrics for domestic manufacturing, but Elon is still concerned about the tariffs.
So the administration is always talking about, hey, we got to make more stuff here. Let's make things in America. Let's have American-made cars. Well, Elon is actually doing it, and then your guy goes out, Navarro, and craps all over him and lies about the fact that he's actually making cars in America.
And
so
he's making EVs, and all the liberals.
if I were starting a business,
Michael,
I'm calling Elon.
But
That's all I'm saying.
what does it say?
I'm also with Scott Jennings and Elon on this one and most things. The truth of the matter is that Peter Navarro is actually a very strange character if you look into his background. In fact, he was actually a member of the Democratic Party until very recently. He previously identified himself as a liberal economist and a supporter of Hillary Clinton. In the 1990s, he ran for office in California 5 times. He ran for mayor of San Diego. He ran as a Democrat. Now look, being a former Democrat isn't automatically disqualifying, of course. Trump has included former Democrats like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard in his cabinet. Trump is himself a former Democrat. What matters is the views of those individuals and whether they overlap with the Trump administration in the areas that they are working on, whether they have moved toward conservatism. I would argue that RFK Jr. and even more clearly Tulsi are trending in that direction. Navarro, on the other hand, is still beholden to the exact same policy ideas he had when he sought office to be the mayor of San Diego. In fact, his platform as a candidate was really pernicious. He ran on a no-growth platform of consciously and deliberately undoing economic growth, economic dynamism. He effectively didn't want trade at all. Now, this isn't about raising up the working class or protecting important sectors of the economy. Frankly, it's a platform that's well to the left of like the most left-leaning senators in the Democratic Party. So, by which I mean it's total nonsense, and everybody knows it, especially Elon Musk. It's a very strange character, this Peter Navarro, if you look at him closely. And you know, conservatives are used to maybe now just defending everyone that Trump has advising him. But, you know, I've long said that not everybody advising Trump has, they have, you know, a variety of agendas. Peter Navarro has a very strange agenda. I would actually call it left and then some, even into degrowth, which is what I consider to be a very pernicious ideology. I think he just fundamentally doesn't understand trade and markets, and I think he's made a big mistake picking a fight with Elon Musk, but we'll have to see.
So in relation to him not understanding trade and markets, what then does it say that he was so aligned with President Trump, or President Trump was so aligned with him? I mean, we will, as you say, get into the bigger debate about tariffs and what has happened in the next segment. But I think Navarro and Steve Bannon, who's a big ally of his, would probably contend that their views are sort of economic nationalism, right? And that is something that Trump has obviously endorsed himself. It was in fact part of his appeal when he was running for president, the idea that he was going to bring manufacturing jobs back to the heartlands, the so-called Rust Belt, Ohio, Pennsylvania, all the rest of it. And then we see, these tariffs go into effect not even go into effect, be announced for a week and then be pulled back. Now, in relation to Navarro, it is true that he is, I think, by any standards, a strange person. That's not a crime, but it's certainly a fact in his case. And it is true that he, as you say, did run as a Democrat previously. Now, there are positions of Donald Trump's in the past that were also Democratic positions. He expressed fondness for universal health care at one stage, was pro-choice on the abortion topic, etc. And of course, Trump himself had donated to Hillary Clinton and to Kamala Harris as well on one occasion. But to your overarching point, I don't think there's any real doubt that what has happened is ultimately a win for the Elon Musk, even the Scott Bessent kind of wing over the Navarro-Bannon wing in this. And I think that's pretty indisputable.
Yeah, I think that's the key part of this. It was just never, the idea that this was going to remain in place long enough, the broad tariffs against everyone, not targeted tariffs for China, which we're going to discuss, in order to actually make it economically feasible to do the kind of vast rebuilding that American compass, working class, our dear friend Batya, the kind of thing she wants to see, her and I agree on some things, we fundamentally disagree on economic issues. That was just not going to be the plan. I think Peter Navarro wishes that was the plan. I can't, read Trump's mind. I don't know exactly what he was thinking. Don't pretend to, but that's not going to be what's going on here.
No, because you would have had to hold the tariffs in place for years to even test that theory. And even if you had done, there's no guarantee that it would work. It's just like, okay, this is the thesis. To test it, you have to hold on to those tariffs for a long time, and you have to bear the short-term pain, and President Trump was unwilling to do so.
Well, we're going to discuss those in greater detail coming up next. That pause on tariffs for everyone except China. More Rising right after this.